Interestingly enough, I find this fascinating. Lately, mobile has come under a lot of heat over creative. It's one of the things that we hear more and more, especially from more senior agency executives, who complain about the itty-bitty banner size on mobile and how difficult it is for people to see and use, even though interaction and click-through rates on mobile still remain higher, as if that's the sum total possible for communicating with people on a device that they talk and text with their family on all day. The lament has always been a bit about creative on mobile, and messaging on mobile has always been a little bit bizarre to me, especially if any of them would look back at the mind-numbingly cluttered and invisible websites that they've created over the years. The ways in which mobile offers messaging systems and ways to get to consumers that have literally 97% open rates on some of the channels. It's an amazing anomaly to me that there's a lot of talk about the limitations of creative on mobile when, if anything, there's much more upside there. But to talk about where we are in terms of creating dialogues, and it's one of the interesting things I think we heard on the first panel among the brand marketers, is that several of them are really starting to think now about how they can build in a kind of conversational component to really adopt that native quality and strength of the device, which is conversations. To take the lead on talking about developing dialogue through creative and through messaging, we have with us Maria Harrison, who's a partner and also one of the founders at Bullseye Strategy. Her company has worked with brands like Fox Sports, Visual DNA, Exceller. She's also just drove across from the other side of the state. She's based in Fort Lauderdale. Please welcome Maria Harrison.
Thank you, Steve. So I think he gave me a great intro. So with that, I'll let the panelists take it away and intro each of themselves, and then we'll jump into the discussion. So, James.
So I'm James Citron. I run a company called Mogri. We're one of the largest text messaging companies in the country, but what we're known for is actually video messaging and MMS. So I know the topic in this panel is about how do you create a better dialogue with your customers. We believe the natural evolution of messaging is about delivering pictures, video, and richer forms of content, and that's predominantly what we do for large brands.
I'm Ben Gaddis. I lead the innovation lab at T3. T3 is a creative agency, and we simply believe that technology is kind of the key to unlocking the potential of brands, particularly at this day and age. And so in the innovation group, what we're focused on, we've got about 40 creative technologists who are trying to get out in front of some of our clients' problems and figure out, what technology challenges are they going to have? How do we create new products, services, offerings? And we do that for clients like UPS, JP Morgan Chase, Coke, Sprite, Microsoft, to name a few.
I'm Keith Johnston. I feel like this is interrogation. I work at Butler Shine Stern & Partners. We're a full-service creative agency. I lead the technology group, which for the most part for me is looking for finding the customer journey for each brand, figuring out what the digital thread is that can tie the campaigns with their products together, hopefully finding some white space along the way. For clients like Priceline, Mini, Columbia, so for example, for Mini, that could be something as simple as a campaign execution that's a mobile ad to something that's a little bit more sophisticated, like what we call the mobile advisor for them, which is how you sell cars, which is a much more complex integration and activation all in itself.
My name is Angie May. I'm the Vice President of MS Digital. MS Communication owns 24 radio brands, and my job is to evolve radio stations into the digital space. There we go. I'm calling this an evolution because we are content creators and messengers by nature. We've been doing it for 30 years, our company has, and we're really good at having that conversation. We now need to do it on 9 different platforms and figure out what's successful and how our listeners want to engage with us. So messaging is a huge part of what we do at the core, but trying to get our companies to actually look at messaging across more than one channel is what I do every day.
So thank you. So to try to pick up on some of the things that we've already talked about here this morning, we heard from YesMail this morning and how they're designing email to be more mobile friendly and to really work on the mobile device. Coming from a digital marketing background, when we personalize in an email, some of the things that we did very early on in email personalization was to dynamically insert your name, right? So all of a sudden you got emails that said, "Dear James." Whoa. exciting. So in the mobile space, what can we do to really personalize the experience? How can we, in a text message, a video message, an app, what are we doing that's personal and that's getting people's attention to stop and say, hey, this brand really knows me and cares about my experience? James, you want to take that?
Sure. So it's the beauty of messaging, let's say vis-a-vis an email channel, is actually a two-way dialogue. So when you get emails from a brand, they don't typically ask you, hey, reply back with your thoughts. The beauty of text messaging is you can actually do that. I'll give you a good example of this. Converse recently did a campaign through us where they said, we want to see how people are actually wearing their Converse. And if you actually text in a picture of your favorite Converse moment to a short code, we're actually going to give you a coupon and show you the latest styles. And maybe one of you we're going to send to South by Southwest. Very different from a lot of user-generated content submissions where you might get tens or hundreds of submissions. They got tens of thousands of people sharing these incredible Converse moments. People at weddings taking pictures, the bride and groom wearing their favorite Chuck Tees. And it showed them a lot of different ways that Converse is actually being used by their consumers, and they can use that information to now message that audience. You've got your next major event, here's a Converse shoe that fits for that. So I think that's a key thing to remember. It's a two-way conversation.
So I think that's a great example of a campaign. Ben, you, I think, just recently launched a 7-Eleven app, and you have a call for a login and a creation of account there. So if I create an account inside that app, what kind of personalization could I expect to receive?
Well, the login is a lot about coupons, and so we've got go download the app. We've got lots of great coupons, free coffee for joining, and all kinds of great stuff. But we want to know a little bit more about our customers, and that's one of the things that we're really focused on with the login. But even before you get to the login, I think the personalization doesn't always have to look at information that I know about you. It's more information that we can garner from what you're doing. So we take things like your location, how close you are to a store, the weather, the products that we have for you, and we personalize the app, not only in the look and feel, but in the products that we're suggesting and the ways that we're trying to drive you to a location before we know anything about you other than just where you're standing, the time of day, and the weather in that location. And then as we start to evolve the product and we know more about you, we know about your purchase history and things like that, we can start to tailor coupons and offerings and things along those lines.
So as we're getting into the personalization and we're texting back and forth with our customers, are we asking them to send us beyond pictures? Are we going to videos? Are we getting evolved from that perspective? And what are we seeing from a video perspective? Anybody?
From a video perspective, we're seeing a ton. I mean, we're seeing that's the easiest transition for us in digital. Our content producers are not writers, so they're very off the cuff and spontaneous, and video is a really natural progression there. I think part of the two-way conversation and part of the personalization is personalization on both sides. So not only do we know what these people are doing and how do we address them, but who is addressing them back. And that's where, as a media company with personalities, it's an easy transition for us. And we've actually created personalities and made up email personalities or website personalities to mirror that, because then all of a sudden they can start trusting in and having dialogue. James can attest to this too with radio stations. We literally have back and forth conversations with our listeners for an entire show through text message. We'll send out messages from a personality and get 8,000 people to send back a text message in an hour over big pricing or big content. So it's just as important as the personality and that knowing person, it's also who it's coming from, because just texting back, like you said, we don't automatically send an email back to JetBlue's email and know that somebody's going to respond or someone's even going to read it. And I think that's really important in mobile.
And I think the other thing to mention